So this is pretty cool because we all have sneakers on, right?
Hell yeah, yeah.
First time I ever wore sneakers to an event like this. Why not? So this is a cool session because just as way of background, before I arrived at TRA, I was part of 2 different private equity owned businesses, and so I've got a taste of what that was like. And then we actually were buying companies, working with this private equity firm and taking these incredible ideas and giving them not only the investment, but some of the know-how they needed, right, to go forward. And so Andrew, who I'm going to actually hand it off to in a second, I think is onto something really special because that relationship that you have to have with the business as an investor is so important, and these 2 guys are amazing. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We're going to get through some questions, and then I want to make sure there's time for Q&A for all of you. So Andrew? And Andrew's with the Savory Fund.
Yes, thank you. Andrew Smith with the Savory Fund. I'm the managing director and co-founder. We're based in Salt Lake City, Utah. Have a $200 million food and beverage focused fund solely focused on restaurants. No other focus than restaurants. Restaurants and CPG products. Have been an operator myself for 13 years. Owned and operated over 220 restaurants throughout America. And love the industry. I love what we do. Each of us, I think that it's an honor to be in the industry.
I gotta follow that.
You gotta follow that. Go for it.
Brandon Hunt, co-founder of Via 313. I didn't do half as much as he's done.
Yeah, I'm Zane Hunt with Via 313, Brandon's older brother, and we're from Detroit, Michigan. We moved down to Texas in 2009, 2010 to start Via 313, and we are 12 years later, 5 locations, and we're about to grow to 35 to 40 locations in the next 3 to 5 years with the Savory Fund's assistance.
Excellent. All right, let's show a video.
So we grew up around a lot of pizza. I would say pizza kind of in our DNA. Our first jobs were building some pizza as well. Probably within a few weeks of doing there, quickly realized that a lot of the pizza that I had grown up eating didn't exist here in Austin. We started a dialogue about could we possibly open something here in Austin, Texas. To do that would require all of us. Convinced that it was a good idea. We wanted to take a chance. But we eventually culminated in us opening our first brewery in December of 2011.
So the first time I heard about Via, I was running in Austin, Texas. And I was looking at a couple other brands, and everybody kept saying, you gotta go try this place. And so I actually took our crew, and we went in as a guest. The vibe that was in that restaurant was something that was totally improving.
Savory was already here eating dinner one night and had a good experience, so we were crossing over each other at the same time it felt.
Our investment bankers, they said, you really should be Andrew, you really should be the Savory team. And then we met Andrew, and we met the Savory team on a visit. Within, I don't know, probably 15, 30 minutes or so, our garden was completely obliterated because of the warmth and the positive energy that we felt from the Savory team.
You know, with most partnerships that make sense, it makes sense when you spend time together. And from our first meeting that we had in the corporate office in Austin, it just felt like we were friends for a long time.
For us, it never was fully about the money. It was more about the partnership and the people side of things.
We're excited to see Via 313 being the dominant player in the Detroit side.
Super cool. So now you have a little of the story. I'm going to start with Andrew. What was it about? I mean, there's restaurant brands all the time, right? I work in Austin. It's an incredible brand. What did you see? What was it when you were looking out there? What made them so special to create that partnership and investment?
Yeah, this is not to make my partners feel bad, but I actually wasn't in Austin to look at them initially. I was there looking at a different brand, and Austin, as we know, is a home of a lot of great brands. And as we were leaving to the airport, we had some time we wanted to eat, and someone said, you got to try out Via 313, because I asked, what's the best pizza in Detroit? And so we went to their east side location, walked in, and I kept on going, what is going on here? This is incredible. I had to wait 45 minutes to get a table. 45 minutes, usually you're like, I got to just go somewhere else. We waited because the wait was fun. The vibe was great. The service was impeccable. We sat down and had food. We tried a bunch of different things. They left us with some Superman ice cream at the end, gave us a Dum Dum, and I was a sucker for Via 313 at that point. So it had the it factor, right? And that's what we're looking for ourselves is, does it have something that when people come in and they leave, they think, you know, that hit all the senses. The sights, the sounds, the smells, everything was hit. And it's not necessarily only the food, it was everything around that. And that's what we look for at Savory. We're looking for the it factor with brands. And every brand has the opportunity to do that, but that's what we're looking for.
And so let's flip the tables. So you obviously have a decision to make. If you're going to bring someone in, right? If you want to expand, and then about that person. I think it's much more personal as it is financial. And so tell me a little bit about that and the first interaction you had here with Savory.
Good.
We weren't actively looking. We met some investment bankers that were put a deck together before us, and once we seen the deck, we got pretty excited about the possibilities. So we wanted to go to market, and then we had met Savory about the same time we were getting ready to go to market. Everything he was saying was too good to be true, so we felt the need to still go to market just to make sure that everything was correct. And I mean, like you said, the minute we met, it was just a perfect. It felt right. Oh, sorry. It felt right. It felt. I don't know. We just hit it off with everyone. I gotta quit moving.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah,
Because I think that people assume I'm just going to go with the biggest money, the biggest offer, and I think it's really important to understand that that ends, right? That's the agreement when it's done. But let me talk a little bit about just their approach, or even Andrew himself, right?
Well, for both of us, we were born and raised in Detroit, and we very blue collar. Everybody worked in auto factories and chemical factories. You know, we're not used to being around entrepreneurs or people that founded restaurant companies, or it's very blue collar. So when I think we naturally have our guard up. I think I said that in the video. We're very skeptical of anybody that we're going to meet in the private equity world. We don't know anything about private equity prior to this. So we went in there with open eyes, but our guard was definitely up. So when we meet people, Andrew and the Savory Fund was the first group of people that we met that are in that space. And they immediately made us felt welcome. We felt very comfortable with them, which in turn made my guard go up, even get higher, because I'm like, wait a second, this sounds too good to be true. They're saying all the right things. Like, did they go to school to say the right things? Is this legitimate? Right? So we were still skeptical. But after spending, like I said in the video, 15 to 30, the first hour, we hit it off with them naturally, everybody on the team, just a good group of human beings. And like Brandon mentioned, we just had to, it took a little bit more time to get, I think I'm just a natural skeptic. That's probably my problem. But, you know, I was skeptical, but the more time we spent with them, the more it became obvious that it was the right fit. And like Brandon mentioned, we did do our due diligence. We still met with some other private equity firms, and they gave us their pitches. And to be honest, some of them were more lucrative, but it's not just about money. You have to have the right partnership, the right people that bring you into the fold. It needs to feel like a family. That was very important to us. People that we knew that when we partnered with them, that they wouldn't come in and start changing our recipes, for instance. And I think they said, you know, the Savory team, they said a lot of things that made a lot of sense to us early on. They didn't come on board to change our ideas, to change our recipes, to change the way we serve people. That stuff is already working, or they wouldn't be courting us.
That's right.
We just need help with scaling. We've never scaled a brand. We don't know anything about it, and that's what they do. So I don't know that all the other big private equity firms out there operate quite like that. I think our biggest fear was that we would partner with somebody who was willing to write us a big check, but not provide any support. And that scares the hell out of me. That doesn't interest me either. So it's a natural fit.
Yeah,
I think one of the things, just to add to that though, you had said, you know, sometimes people just look for the biggest check. The one thing that you want to know, especially those that are listening and are thinking about taking private equity on, is there's the right type of money, and then there's the right structure of money as well. And when we meet with anybody, we say very often, is this the beginning of something or the end of something for you? If this is the end of your cycle and you want to be done, it probably makes sense to try to go out and get the biggest check for all of your efforts, right? It's probably not the best money for you if you're going to take that check and then work with that individual, because their expectations are going to be extremely high on you to perform at a higher level to get them a return. So be careful in what you're expecting out of your investor or out of a private equity conversation, because the most is not always the best. Just understand that's from a structure standpoint.
Yeah, and I think just to comment on a personal experience, we sold a business that was private equity owned in London, and I had to stay there for 10 days as part of the management team, and every firm came in, right? And we had to be interviewed by these firms. And it was very clear to me, something you said is, there were those that I knew were only in it to essentially buy it, invest it, and flip it. And usually within about 2 weeks, a couple MBAs from the Chicago School of Business will come and change everything about the way we worked. And I would go back to my hotel at night and just pray to God that our investment firm currently did not pick those people, because they were going to change our world. And so I think that's a really important point I want to hit on is, for you all to be thinking about that relationship piece matters, and you better do the homework on how they run their businesses, because some are very integrated and some have a hands-off approach. And if you make the wrong mistake, you can end up having your whole team leave post-investment. So I think I'm really glad you raised that. Super important. Tell me just a little bit about, for you all, when was the time, right? What happened in the business that made you think, now's the time for us to look for an investor to start to accelerate our scale? Was there a moment, or?
I think we knew the demand was high enough. We wanted to be in other markets, but we couldn't do it ourselves. We had done 5 locations in essentially 7 years, and it was getting too much for us. It was out of our wheelhouse. I think the biggest company I ever worked for was a $2 million bar. So when you're managing a $13.5 million company and 200 employees, it was just getting too much. It still felt like the next mistake could crumble everything, and we didn't want to keep taking those risks. So it was about alleviating the risk for me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, everything he said, right? There you go.
Everything you said.
Good brothers, good brothers.
But I don't know when the right time is to do these kind of things. For us, since we are serving something that we serve Detroit-style pizza, right? So we were the first to call it Detroit-style pizza outside of Detroit, right? So this has grown and gotten hot nationally in the last 5 or 7 years. So there's also that aspect of it's like strike while the iron's hot. We also have that going on too. So if we were doing burgers or something else that wasn't as, well, I guess burgers are hot, but something that wasn't as hot as Detroit-style pizza, maybe we wouldn't have felt that impetus to make the move. Maybe we would have stuck around with our 5 locations a little bit longer instead of seeking help. But it seems to me like the right time to make that move is now, or was, in that moment a year or so ago, a year and a half ago.
Well, and I was going to say, let's talk about, it was June of 2020, correct?
Yeah.
So does anyone remember what was going on in June of 2020?
Yeah, we were doing a deal with the Via 313. It was amazing.
And I was trying to save restaurants in Texas.
Yeah, that's right. We all were, right?
Right? And so just think about that. Talk about the right time. I mean, that's really, it says a lot about you and you, right? Which was, we had just reopened May 1st. I mean, there was just carnage everywhere, right?
Yeah.
We were still trying to figure out the new world, and it was right before we got dialed back again. And yet, you all did this because I think what you saw, too, is just an incredible concept with incredible leaders that care deeply. How do you, one of the things that might be helpful for the audience is, how do you package yourself for this, right? So I think, we've met brands before that have a couple locations, and they're like, no, I'm just going to stay right here. I'd love to do more, but it's scary. I think you can admit, right? The private equity world and this world can be very intimidating, and sometimes intentionally so, which is not to the favor of the company you're trying to, invest in. What can someone do to make themselves ready for those conversations?
It's a great question because, first and foremost, private equity is scary. I've been on the other side of the table. I've taken private equity on before myself throughout my career. And the problem is that there's a disconnect with the psyche of a private equity individual, male or female, it doesn't matter. And you have been bleeding for this brand, it's your baby, and you don't know if you're ready for someone to come and touch your baby, right? You just don't know if you're ready for it. And so I think because of that disconnect, it's an unknown, and so it's scary. So I would say to break down that barrier, you need to find someone that shares the same common belief you do about the industry and the type of investment. You might have generalists that are out there saying, well, I'm going to invest into CPG, food and beverage, some technology, some startups, and be generalist investors. They're not going to live and breathe what you do every day, and they're not going to be able to speak the lingo and understand what it's like to lose, to have someone call out in the Saturday morning when you're the busiest and you need your cooks in the kitchen. So for us to understand that and to break down that barrier, I think that that's probably what made us all feel comfortable working with each other, because I've actually been there on the Saturday morning when my cook called in and said I can't show up. So first and foremost, just make sure you have the right investors, right, that are at the table, and then you're not going to be as nervous. Those nerves will go down. Even though with Zane they went up, they should come down. But secondly, as far as packaging yourself, I always tell anybody that I meet with, and I've met with hundreds of food and beverage concepts, hundreds over the last several years, and probably more during the COVID nightmare, just because people were looking for help. But I can tell within the first few minutes if you're ready or not to actually do a transaction. And it's because it's either a lifestyle business or it's a business that you've been getting ready for a legacy output. Like you want to actually go create a Via 313 in every major city destination in the Western United States. They had set that up, that's what they wanted. And when we met, I said, what's your goals? What do you see with Via 313? And they said, we want to see these in every city out there where we can have the baseball leagues come in on Saturday morning and eat as a family under a premise of where we all used to eat, which was in a Pizza Hut, under a Pizza Hut roof, and getting the buffet, salad, and there was some nostalgia around that, and I knew that that's what they wanted to do. And I said, I want to do that too. And so we had some commonality among bringing the casual dining experience to pizza back. And of course, Detroit style is the hottest thing since pizza came out. And I'm from Chicago. I think Chicago pizza is damn good. This is better. So just so you guys know, it's all better.
And so how about any learnings, right? You were about a year in. Any learnings, anything that you sort of have crossed that you weren't expecting, or either good or bad? This is your chance.
Good or bad, guys. You guys can say bad too.
You have covered.
I thought
Be
you said
honest
he was
with
going to
them.
leave the stage.
Close your ears.
Yeah, no, there really hasn't been any surprises, or I got yous, definitely. It's been, obviously, everything he said the team was going to do is done, and some. We've really just been taking the opportunity to learn from them, how to scale, how to be a better manager of people, how to be there for the people more, and just being available really a lot more, because when you're wearing all the hats, whether it be construction, managing the day-to-day, you're really not available. You become just busy all the time. And now we've been able to slow down, be there for the employees, for the managers. That's been the most enjoyable part for me. I don't know if you got anything you want to add.
I have nothing to add. I mean,
So see, guys, when you're in, no big surprises.
Yeah.
I would add on our side for learnings, just that we did the transaction over a year ago, and of course we all want growth and scale, but we wanted to stabilize the business too. It's always best to stabilize your business instead of just thinking if we go add more units, that's going to make it better. Like we're going to grow ourselves out of these problems. In our mind, it's better to be methodical and to be slower and better than faster and worse. So just always be thinking, to be a really good asset that someone's looking at and saying, I want to partner with you and give you money to go scale this, you have to have your house in order. I think that since last year till now, we got our house in order. Things have been very stable. We've taken down 17 sites in 4 different geographies, 4 new states than Texas. We're coming to San Antonio as well, which is really exciting. But we're now ready for growth because we've got our house in order and are ready for growth. But I will say that now there are certain things that we're all experiencing that are harder than last year. Right now, logistics and food costs and employees and everything else that we're all suffering, one thing that I've learned is that you never can be too prepared for what is to come, because something's always going to throw you a curveball in this industry. And as long as you have your house in order, you'll be just fine. In our portfolio, we own 4 other brands. This is our 5th. And we're all over the Western United States. And when the whole situation happened last year, we don't like to acknowledge it, but when it happened, we had to pivot. We had to pivot quick, and it's really interesting for us as being in private equity to watch brands that pivoted and how the leadership really pivoted during that time, to see how resilient their brand is. And the ones that didn't are the ones that we say, you probably are not going to last because you guys didn't have your house in order. So it's really a good time for you guys to figure out, how do I get my house in order so that you'll have options. And it doesn't necessarily have to be private equity, or it doesn't have to be a sellout. You can just run a really damn good business, but get your house in order.
I love that. And so let's talk about some of the touch points, right? You talk about getting the house in order. I don't think everyone always understands the role that, and it'll be great to talk about this model, but that private equity can play, right? So there's the investment side, which is critical, but you both talked about sort of business expertise, how to become better leaders. Maybe it's HR, maybe it's, I see a lot of times investment in their IT infrastructure to scale. What are those touch points? Like what value add are you giving them outside of that financial investment and scale?
Yeah, listen, money is money, and I think everybody has options. Almost every investor or every founder that I've met with, they've said, well, I have investors. Everybody has to get investors, whether it's the bank, the SBA, aunts and uncles. Either way, you're going to get money somehow, right? Private equity is just another conduit to and access to cash, right?
It makes it less scary when you say it that way.
You're right. It's just another conduit. But I think that money is money, and in this industry, it's not just about money. I used to be in tech for 11 years, and when investors would give me money in the technology arena, they'd give me tech and say, go hire your team and go crush it for us and make us money. It's not that easy in this industry. I think we all understand that it's not that easy. And so for us, we brought our team that I had created and assembled over the last decade with me to my private equity team, 60 individuals that do everything from the growth and scale to replication to leadership development and training and recruiting and HR and finance and everything we bring to the table with the money, because it's what I wanted when I was a younger restaurateur in this industry. So just know that if you're going to get money, know what you're getting behind it, because money is money, but this takes a lot of work. I tell these guys all the time, it takes a small army, and we're realizing that too. It takes a lot of people to make this work.
Any non-negotiables? Anything where you're like, you must use this of ours, you must do it this way?
No, I don't think there's been anything that we've said we have to. I think it's been easy for them to say we want to, because we just display what we do, and they say, yeah, that sounds great. I think that if they have a better idea, and we have other groups that we've invested into that say we really want to work with this group on this, it's like, it's great, I stand behind that. I'm a partner, I want to make the best decision for the company. If the best decision is to keep a relationship that's been intact for 10 years, we're going to keep that relationship intact, because it makes what's unique about that brand go.
That's right. And so people that you bring in daily, weekly, you're talking every day, you're talking once a week. What's the day-to-day like between you two? You three, 2 + 1.
We don't really work, we just talk and hang out and have fun, so.
I saw you all last night at the awards. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's
we
just a
just have
cool
fun.
group over
Yeah,
there
yeah.
hanging out.
For us, we communicate weekly. I mean, we're talking pretty often, and I remember when I took money on from private equity, I talked to them once every 6 months at my board meeting. So
Pretty much.
I feel pretty strongly that we have to have a good relationship, because we're making the decisions for the brand together at the board level. But I think the team is working with them and our above store leadership team every single day. Every day there's contact.
Anything from you guys?
What he said.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wake up about noon, and then no. It's a pizza
Thank you for being here
place.
today.
No, we like you said, we talk to someone from Savory just about every day, and it's usually them double checking something that they're not going too far out of the. I always say, like, I feel like we're herding cattle, like they all want to go at 1,000 miles an hour. And it's our job to kind of be like, well, that's not what we would do. Like,
Right,
we
put
would
the
do it this
guardrails
way.
on. Yep.
And they've always been receptive of everything like that.
That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a tremendous amount of, mutual respect for sure, but the tremendous amount of respect coming from the Savory Fund towards us and what we've created. And I feel that every day. You're talking about non-negotiables. They asked us what our non-negotiables were during the discovery process with us. And we laid out what those are, and those things haven't been touched. I mean, that's the ultimate respect, for founders, I think.
And it's a partnership. I think that's a word that you often, and I really do love how you put that, which is you're going to take a bank loan, you're going to get money from mom and dad, you're going to get private equity invested, and it does make it sound less scary. When these things go bad, what drives that, right? And I've actually been part of one where it was going to scale, it was going to be amazing, and then Australia had wildfires, and we had COVID, and the whole thing just went sideways. I've also been part of one where the relationship wasn't great, right?
Yeah.
Or that question on who had control, that was really up in the air, and that's very hard for the folks running the business. When you've seen these either now or prior life, what is it that drives that? Just to give them some sort of, this is what I should be thinking about.
Yeah, so the reason why it will go bad is because your expectations are not aligned going into it. I always say, go into this with your eyes wide open. And I said that to these fine gentlemen up here, my partners. I said, come into this with your eyes wide open, ask every question under the moon, get them answered, right? Like, ask everything. And when you ask and then your expectations are aligned, then it can't go as bad, right? Because you kind of go into it knowing what you're trying to do. And then, of course, your goals. What did we all want to do? We wanted to hit this level of growth within this amount of time. If we're marching towards that, they should be happy, and I'm happy because we're marching towards something we discussed going into the deal. But then I think you said it, Zane, it's mutual respect too. I just respect the hell out of the guys, and I want to see their dream hit a home run. I'm really more motivated by that, seeing their dream come to fruition than mine.
Yeah, and just seeing you here, true to yourself, right? True to your brand, who you are. I think that really matters. Any advice from you? I'm just watching these lights here, and I'm not sure. Did anyone else see them swinging?
If any of those lights fall and kill us, tell our families that we love them.
I know. It's quite bizarre.
Final
They're really swinging. I don't know what's happening up there, but I didn't mean to be distracted. I was listening to everything you said.
We're all like going, what the hell?
It's a little frightening. Any advice for, and you've got operators here, and maybe before I ask that question, right, when this mess hit, and we'll just call it a mess, there were restaurants that were prepared. In Texas, 34% could generate $1 on the 20th of March that had either to-go, curbside, delivery, a drive-through. But for the majority, they were dead in the water. And I know I see some of our members here. And you saw folks either hide and pray that it changed and ended, or innovate. We had a lot of independents now that have some pretty incredible concepts that have an opportunity to take that to the whole next level. The one thing that we all know is that people have to eat, and restaurants are 51% of the food dollar for every American. And so we make a huge piece of their investment decisions come into our restaurants. I think, because I was in higher ed when private equity as another stream entered, and it was just transformational, right? It gave people with a great idea the runway and know-how to take it to the whole new level. And it was an amazing, exciting time. I know, and I'm so excited to meet Andrew, that's happening here now, right? That's gonna happen in this space. I can tell you, I've seen it happen, and it's amazing. And via 313s, that's what's about to go on. What advice can you give people that maybe have that, just like you did, right? They have that, I've got something really special that I want to keep because it's that special. It has the it factor. What advice do you have for people as they're maybe thinking about, I might want to go down this path as another source of funding?
I feel like we kind of touched on this already, but
I want you to say more though.
Yeah, I mean, the two things that come. Oh boy.
Now
the
just,
two
just
things that
ignore
come to
the
mind
horror show
That's
happening above us.
are. I think it's really important to stay really humble about what you are good at and what you're not good at in the business. I find it a big turnoff when you meet somebody in our line of work that as an owner or founder that think they're great at everything. That's just silly. It's impossible. So be humble enough to know what you're not good at and know what you need help with and ask for it. And that can come out of that partnership.
That's awesome.
Because that was one of the first questions that Savory asked us was, what do you want to do? What do you want to do in the business? We can take on a lot of this, but what do you want to do at the end of the day? So that's something that Brandon and I talk a lot about is what we don't want to do and what we do want to do. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. And then the second thing is the reality is, and I have a feeling you're going to say this, so is you got to go to work with these people every single day. It better be human beings that you care about and you like and you respect and they can get along with. Otherwise, it's not worth the money at that point. Money's great, but it's not worth it. So you better enjoy the people that you got to go to work with every day. And so in that discovery process, finding the right partners is essential.
I think to add to that too would be to surround yourself with people that are doing the shit that you want to do. Am I allowed to swear? Sorry.
You just did, so yeah, keep going.
Beep it out.
I love it. It's perfect.
But we took the owners of Torchy's out and the owners of P. Terry's out. They were doing what we wanted to do, and it's just amazing how helpful everybody is if you surround yourself with them. I mean, we're always available. They're always available. Just surrounding yourself with people that are doing stuff that you want to do.
I love it. So
I think
hungry
I
and
would just
humble.
add one thing though to that, because on the other side of that too, I like what Zane said about be humble. You have to realize too that if you're sitting in front of an investor, don't think that the investor thinks that you're the only option for them either. So being humble to say, this could be really good for me. Maybe this is the shot that I've got. Because if you keep looking around, you might miss a great opportunity as well. There's plenty of concepts out there. We're trying to find the best. but there are other concepts out there that are really good. So make sure that you're humble about it and that you say, I want to scale. And if you want to scale, make sure that you put your guts out there and you see if it works out, because there are a lot of options on both sides of that table.
It's a great point, and I always tell my kids, hungry and humble, right? So be hungry, go at it, but you've got to be really humble. And I think you never want to do a deal with someone you wouldn't have a drink with. That's just my rule.
Right.
I wouldn't hire someone I don't want to have a drink with. I mean, that's how you build great teams, and so that fit's really important. I would love anything else that you want to add before. I'd love to open up for some questions, which means start thinking, because I know you have questions. Anything else you want to add before we throw it out to the audience? Good? All right, let's get some questions. Do you have a question, sir?
So running into the situation of proof of concept, where is it that strategically a proof of concept should seek strategic partner capital investment? If you have one location, but you feel like you have a proof of concept, should you go out and finance 2 or 3 more before you seek that investment from a strategic partner?
Yeah, it's a really good question. We're growth investors. There's going to be early stage investors as well. Maybe 1 or 2 would be proof of concept for them. For a growth investor, we typically want to see 3 or 4. We think 3 geographies, different type of clientele. Usually each of those sites are a little bit different. They're maybe bigger or smaller. We can really have some data then to diligence. And if we have some of that empirical data, then we can see that your concept is something that might be able to travel into multiple geographies out of your heritage market. What's really good though is if you do 2 in your city and then you hopscotch over to a different city and do 1 or 2, if that happens, you usually can get even a higher value on that first bite of the apple with your investor as well. So the more you do, the better deal it's going to be. But then there's kind of a point where there's kind of the law of diminishing returns. Because if you wait 10 years or 15 years to prove me something and you have 7, 8, 9 units, and you're adding 1 every 3 years, for me, the brand's actually probably kind of starting to die because it's been in that cycle. Speak up a little more. Yes, same units, yeah. Yep.
So Brandon or Zane,
Yes.
a question I've got for you guys. When you met with Andrew, how did you decide how much equity you wanted to give up? Did you go into the meetings prior to that? Or did you go in with a little fear and trepidation? You don't have to tell us how much, but it'd be cool if you did.
I have a flip side of that too, so I want to hear how they respond.
Yeah, again, I don't want to make him sound amazing, but
Please don't.
I'm trying to figure out how to answer this without giving him a compliment.
You can see the relationship works very well. I love you too.
Yeah, honestly, it felt like he was looking out for our best interests from the get-go. I think originally we wanted to do an 80-20 split, and he talked us to a 60-40 split. And a lot of that is because we're partners. If your partnership's only 20%, how excited are you going to be in helping growing this brand? But if you got 40% and a little bit less on the first bite, you'll be a little more excited to work every day to get that second bite. So that's where we're at, and it makes a lot of sense now, but we didn't know that 2 years ago.
Yep. I want to have them see their dream realized, and if we hit that point and they had sold me too much, I think that they would be bummed. And I knew that because I've been at that point before in my career. So for me, I always talk the founders into keeping more, even though most people in my seat will talk you into selling them more. It disincentivizes the founder group. And in my mind, they're the heart and soul of this. If I wanted to be them, I'd have to go get more tattoos on my arms and grow a beard. And I can't grow a beard. I can grow long hair, but that's about it. So yeah, I would always talk them out of taking too much because I want them motivated with me. And the motivation is very paired well together.
So speaking of compliments and stuff, you said that you got to focus on your strengths. How do you find out the things that you suck at? Like, how did you guys determine? Hey,
Us?
Yeah.
That's a long list.
But I mean, like, where you want help and what your non-negotiables were, because obviously there are things that you guys rock at, but there are things that you suck at. How did you determine that?
I think starting with what you don't want to do every day. Again, they were really good at identifying what do you want to do, what do you think you're good at, and what do you not want to do. That's probably the things you're not good at.
Yeah, I mean, exactly what Brandon said. You can keep in mind, as everybody here knows, when you start a concept and you bootstrap it for, 9 years at that point. We've worn every hat in the business. We've done HR, we've done payroll, operations, obviously, on the recipe side. We've done it all. And we realized real quick what our strengths and weaknesses are by trying to do it all. So,
And
9 years in, I got a pretty good idea what I don't want to do.
And they have something for everyone, right? They already have a real estate division, but if that's what you're into, then you'll have a seat at that table. But if you don't want to be bothered, then they'll just handle it.
You have to think about what the authenticity of a brand comes from, and it's always usually it's tied to the founder or the CEO or whoever is the one running that charge. That's what's interested us to come to that brand, right? Who's the driving force? But that driving force never is all. Never. And so that's why we have that conversation of what makes you happy when you wake up in the morning. And because there is plenty to do for a brand that's growing to 30, 40, 50, 60 units between now and that point, it's a small army and everybody has to take a job and do it really, really well. So we don't care what the founder wants to do. It's just that they do it really, really well.
Wow, I think I hope you all agree. This has just been a great session. We have a vision here for the Dallas to actually bring investors in and brands, have them be able to meet. Matchmaking in Dallas is our next. I think this is a cool space. I just want to say thank you to both of you. You're just great human beings, and I can see why they wanted to invest in you. And I'm really excited to watch you grow across the U.S. Anything we can do to help you from the association here or elsewhere, you let us know. But thank you so much, and thank you, Andrew, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we're going to do together to keep growing the industry. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you, guys.